Why hello there, and welcome to the Night Owl Cafe Halloween-a-thon. So, I know what you're thinking. Yo! Dylan, this is supposed to be a Halloween-a-thon. Where's the horror movies? Why are you reviewing this weeaboo shit? Well, I assure you, my friend, that the horror stuff will be coming a bit later. But first I want to take this opportunity to talk about one of my all-time favorite anime films ever. The Cowboy Bebop movie, also known as Cowboy Bebop Knocking on Heaven's Door in Japan. It's one of those movies that has stuck with me ever since the first time I saw it. And even being a big Cowboy Bebop fan before watching it, this film actually made me like the original series even more by association. And I want to talk about it. And you know, it's technically a Halloween season movie, so, you know, go stuff a pumpkin in it. Now, for those unfamiliar with Cowboy Bebop as a series, well, what the fuck are you doing here? I mean, why don't you try enriching your life for once, man? It's basically about this here group of space bounty hunters trying to make a fucking buck so they don't, you know, fucking starve. The series in concept is quite simple, really. It's all about the execution, the character dynamics and arcs, the kick-ass music by Yoko Kanno, the episodic nature of the show, and the way every episode feels like an individual story, sometimes fun and action-packed, and other times slow and thought-provoking, some weird and outlandish, and others emotional and deeply personal. Or in other words, Cowboy Bebop is really good. You should go watch it, or else you're not allowed in my cafe anymore. With that said, this movie can be watched and enjoyed without any prior knowledge of the show, as it does an excellent job conveying the personalities of the characters to new audiences while at the same time giving longtime fans exactly what they want. The actual plot of the film follows a similar structure to a regular episode of the Bebop crew trying to collect a bounty on a mysterious criminal, and because it's Cowboy Bebop, shit escalates and nothing goes as planned. Series director Shinichiro Watanabe is often quoted stating that he wanted every episode of Cowboy Bebop to be akin to a miniature movie, grabbing your attention and telling a complete story in each episode, say except for two-parters in the series, one of which being the series finale. Point being, Cowboy Bebop the movie follows the same philosophy, telling an individual story that can be enjoyed on its own, but ultimately carries a lot more weight through a fan's eyes. For example, the overall pace of the film is again very similar in vein to an episode of Cowboy Bebop. It's a mixture of slow and utterly atmospheric scenes pulling the audience into its setting, followed by insanely epic action sequences, and topped off with interesting character interactions and some sort of message, or at least food for thought by the end of it. Of course, with a movie-sized budget, everything animation-wise is turned up to 11. But what is exactly the same prestigious quality as the series, and therefore quite consistent, is the music composed by Yoko Kanno. Some of the standout tracks in this film to me are Gotta Knock a Little Harder,
Cut my cool on the lock and key, and I never shed a tear, now the sign of my condition. The longer I stall, the further I crawl, the further I crawl, the harder I fall, while scrolling into the fire.
De Juradiro, Butterfly,
You're a love song, only halfway sung. You're the knot that comes undone. You're a butterfly before my eyes. You're a butterfly, a trick of time.
and Pushing the Sky. All these tracks, and really the entire soundtrack in general, not only manages to capture that signature Cowboy Bebop style, and also twists it to fit the plot and feeling of the film, perhaps most interestingly and most evidently with its new villain. Okay guys, I'm not joking around here. This dashing, beautiful, evil, badass fellow is on another level. Cowboy Bebop is a show that I think isn't credited enough for how many interesting and cool villains it has, with the obvious one from the series being Vicious, who is just delightfully cold. But there's also other villains like the Mad Parrots, or Udai Taxum, or Wen. Sinister and twisted, cold and callous, or at times sad and tragic, maybe even sympathetic really. Now, to make a bold claim, I think Vincent is a perfect mix of all of these things. He is a very intimidating and cold character, twisted really, yet also calm and cool. Yet at the same time, he's quite tragic, sad, and ultimately sympathetic once we get to know his backstory and where he stands as a person today. And I just overall love the character design, and I really want that goddamn coat! Without delving into an intense plot summary, Vincent is a character that only manages to be more interesting as the film goes on, starting off as what I consider to be one of the best introductions to a villain in Cowboy Bebop and anime in general. Hot damn, son! And as we move through the plot, he manages to grow more and more disturbing and mysterious until, at its climax, we come to understand him too as a character. I would also like to point out something I don't ever see people bring up about Vincent or this movie in general. And that's, if you really look and pay attention to Vincent's philosophy of life and his view of the world, or reality, it paints an eerily similar image to that of Spike Spiegel's. The only difference is, while Spike is trying to escape his past, Vincent has no memories of his past, and thus only the memories of suffering remained. You could really interpret this in several ways, but at least the way I see this dynamic to be interesting is that in both cases their past defines who they are, both viewing life as an endless dream. But Spike remembers his past and thus carries its weight, even if he tries to run from it. Whereas Vincent, because he mentally has no recollection of his past, he has no weight to carry. This is an extremely interesting dynamic because it implies, as the series does as well, that we all must face ourselves and carry that weight because it's what makes us human. It's what makes us learn from our mistakes, grounds us in reality. And without that weight, though it may be painful, we are left a husk, unable to truly enjoy life because we are constantly running away from facing its hardships. But for Vincent, this wasn't a choice, as was forced upon him in his days as a soldier, nanomachines warping his sense of reality. Or in other words, he's a great villain for Spike to go up against. Add that with the interesting parallels between Elektra and Vincent that are in some ways mirror Spike and Julia's relationship, and you have a wonderful narrative about facing oneself from Spike's perspective.
We share the same soul. That's why I have to see him one last time.
As Vincent, though he is this incredibly intimidating, scary, and mysterious villain, it's through him that Spike can actually learn a lesson. And considering that this, canonically, is supposed to take place right before the final few episodes in the series, I find this to be quite a fitting character and trial for Spike to evolve as a character. And plus, they just have some great fucking fight scenes, and we all know that's what's most important after all. I would be doing a great disservice to the film if I didn't mention its breathtaking animation. From moments like the shots of Spike approaching a little shop that's being mugged, his boots building him up and showcasing his narrative weight in the story, or the famous broom fight between Spike and Elektra, which is so tightly choreographed and put together and well shot, I can't help but be in awe of it every single time I watch it. And how about that fucking kick-ass aerial dogfight scene, combined with that kicking jazz music, makes every single frame of this dogfight feel so quick and intense that I swear I can feel the gusts of wind tear across my hair as Spike's ship dashes in and out of frame. I'm sorry. Then there's the crowning achievement of the film. Spike and Vincent's final battle is visceral. Every kick and punch being perfectly choreographed, you can really feel the weight of every blow they give each other. You can feel the pain, the sweat, and the blood, and the spit that comes out of their mouth. It just feels very intense and real. And add that with this buttery smooth animation, great soundtrack, and oh, look at the pumpkins! It's got the Halloween and orange hue to the whole thing, which really looks great as the backdrop. Oh, that's right, pumpkins. Yeah, Vincent wanted to enact his evil plan to use the nanomachines to infect everybody on Halloween because...
Know much about purgatory?
What?
It's a place between heaven and hell, where those who were left behind, unable to get into heaven, continue to suffer. A place of struggle and pain. In other words, the world that we're in now. Halloween is the one day when a soul in purgatory can be released. If he prays hard enough, he can go to heaven at last. Say your prayers.
See, I told you it was a Halloween movie, jeez. Cowboy Bebop is one of those series that is unique in its form of storytelling, often being a multimedia experience through its characters, themes, visuals, stories, and music, and all these things combined manage to tell an ongoing story deeply woven into individual stories. Cowboy Bebop is an episodic series in this way, but then it's just so magical to watch this series unfold, as each episode can be watched and enjoyed for its own merits, while at the same time these characters are the one connector, and we the audience start to understand who they are through their actions, interactions, their subtleties, and with the many interactions they have with strangers that they come to meet along the way, and ultimately come to understand the weight they all carry, the weight that they all try their best to run away from because it hurts so bad, but ultimately catches up to all of them. Oh god, my poor heart, just get out of here, just stop. Point being, I think the Cowboy Bebop movie manages to capture all the best aspects of Cowboy Bebop the series. But on top of that, it's also just definitely a much watch if you're just an anime fan or a fan of films in general. So, until next time, this has been Dylan the Night Owl, flying off.